G'day guys, welcome to Sad Sunday, I'm calling this one, on My Blue Heaven. It's generally the case when you have a poor Friday night or a Saturday game, whether it's in the afternoon or night. I hope you've had enough time to lick your wounds, so to speak. I don't know where to start. Well, look, what I might do is just start with the eggs. And my mum, she dropped these off this morning. She watched my preview, and look, I would have happily cracked those eggs over my head. There's no doubt about that. In fact, midway through that second quarter, when we were on a roll, I even contemplating heading out of the ground at half time and going to the local IGA at Docklands and grabbing half a dozen of the finest eggs, and would have been more than happy to crack them over my head at the game after the final siren, but it wasn't to be, so it was somewhat predictable in the end. But Mum did bring over some eggs this morning to share in my preview. So I will pose the question for you guys, just a bit of fun, and in the comments below, obviously, tell me how you're feeling about our football team, first and foremost, but also how do you enjoy your eggs? Assuming you like eggs, I think, most of us like eggs. I mentioned in the preview, they're a staple part of our diet, but Mum brought over some curried eggs, and I've still got that blood blister on my finger there. It's not nail polish. And these are, I don't know if these are an Aussie thing. They're certainly good. They're outstanding. So I'll have the other one later. They're a family favourite at barbecues, and if we have salads at Christmas, my kids absolutely love them. I mean, you wouldn't be eating them every day, but on special occasions, they're no doubt, I think, an Aussie thing. But let me know if you like curried eggs or however way you like them. And as I said, I'd be preferring to maybe grab a curried egg and just rub that into my face, but I'm not going to do that. Let's get on to the, so thanks, Mum. They are delightful. She did say that she'd run out of curry powder, but no, they've still got some considerable punch, unlike our football team at the moment. I don't know where to start because I pretty much, it went to script as far as I'm concerned, although I didn't necessarily expect us to dominate that second quarter like we did, although that has become somewhat us, hasn't it? This ability to really break open a game and score quickly, 7 goals in that second quarter after, I wouldn't call it a slow start, but it was an arm wrestle in that first quarter against Port, and I thought they, in that first quarter, came with a real appetite for the contest, but we certainly got on top of them in that second quarter and played some exceptional football. And it was exciting. The crowd got involved, and but there is this worrying sign, and I don't know whether it's a coincidence, that we have this really bad habit of, after dominating a quarter of football, and it's been a lot of times this year. I mean, I'll just go back to the Sydney game, for example, and even the prelim final last year. They're the ones that stand out, but we've dominated sort of first quarters, and this one was the second quarter, which was quite ironic considering our second quarters have been poor for a period of time now. But we have this really bad habit of dominating a quarter. And look, you can see goals. You can't have just pure momentum for a whole quarter of football, but they come on the stroke of quarter time or half time. You know, when Mitch Georgiadis, who had a really good first half and was always a bit of a threat in their front half, he scored, I think it was at 30-minute mark. And suddenly a 5-goal lead with all the momentum suddenly becomes a 4-goal game, and it gives the opposition a bit of a sniff. And, that's happened so many times this year, this inability potentially to take the sting out of the game really late in quarters. keep that momentum. It is really frustrating, and I can't put a finger on it. But it happens all the time, and it's become something as supporters, and I think in the coach's box as well, that we almost expect it now that, like we've dominated this quarter, we've got off to a flyer, but we will concede late in red time, and it happened once and again. And after half time, we were putrid, and it went to script. It was predictable, and it was consistent of our look. It's hard to call it effort and application, but when you're talking about contest and a willingness to really hunt, whether that's the ball or the opposition. And I see contest as two parts. I don't just see it as putting your head over it and winning the pill, but it's also that ability to apply pressure when the opposition have it, or also to I think more importantly, absorb it. And we had to absorb it when we did get our hands on it, and we couldn't. We made a lot of mistakes, and we coughed the ball up, and Port made us pay. Their pressure was elite. Their contest work was elite, and we just went to water in our midfield once again. And I know this is a whole ground thing here, the absorbing pressure, but our ability in that second half of our midfield to get to work was just non-existent. And it was a half dominated by Port Adelaide. And look, as I mentioned, don't let that 14-point margin fool you. That in the end was a pretty comfortable victory for Port. And hats off to them, but there wasn't a minute in that game that I thought that they were an exceptionally good football team. And their fans are probably no different to us. In fact, they're probably further advanced than us in regards to a team that's been around the mark for a period of time now. And what I mean by around the mark, consistently play finals football, have fallen out in prelims, have been disappointing in finals, and never quite reached the pinnacle under Ken Hinkley. They wouldn't be getting carried away with this. They'd be exceptionally happy with the performance on the road. But in the context of their season, it's an important win, but they wouldn't be sitting there getting carried away with that, because they're probably looking at us and thinking, they're not that great. They're not in good nick. So I look at it, and I think, we're in a bit of a bad spot at the moment, a vulnerable spot. We're fourth on the ladder, a tough position to be in. I did read a tweet of a Carlton supporter. It's a Carlton supporter who works in the media, or used to work in the media. I won't mention his or her name, but they pretty much said, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, I have no problem with that, but he pretty much said the reality is that Carlton can't win the grand final in 2024. It's just not going to happen. Well, that's not the reality. The reality of the situation right here, right now, is we're playing poorly, and really poorly. And if you look at what we're doing right here, right now, if that continues, of course we will not be even in a position to contend. In fact, if we continue along this path, even a position in the top 8 will be in jeopardy, let alone finishing top 2 or top 4. But the reality has to be now. And, the last 4 weeks have been really ordinary. And I can say, being there at the game on Friday night, that after half time we'd look flat and we'd look tired, and without Harry, obviously another big target up forward, and this game plan of getting it into your bigs. We're not a team that necessarily lowers the eyes or finds different angles. We look for our big targets. That didn't help, not having Akers, who I think is one of the best wingers or two-way wingers in the competition, and a tough nut as well. Didn't help. And obviously TDK, an outstanding clearance player and contest player, we didn't. And metres gained as well, we didn't have. All those things you take in consideration, plus the 5-day break. Of course, we looked a little tired, a little bit fatigued, but it doesn't excuse a 1-goal-5 second half. It doesn't excuse it at all. And it also doesn't excuse our form over the last month or so. Okay, you can put that as part of the problem on Friday night, but it doesn't explain what has happened over the last month. But I'm not buying this. The reality is that it's all over. We're not winning a grand final this year. Sure, that's what it looks like. But the reality is, right now, we're playing poorly. And I've got no problem if you look ahead and go, like I did with this game against Port Adelaide. I didn't think we would win this game just based on our form. But it's very hard to predict the future, what's going to happen with this group, because we've seen this team turn it around in the past, and you have to look at that, the fact that they can turn it around, or have the ability, and I think the mental strength as well. This is going to come down to real mental toughness as much a physical sort of journey now, and a tough task this week against our arch rivals. And Scott Pendlebury's 400th game, and it becomes like, it becomes an incredible game, and one which I think we're all going to be fairly nervous about. But I'm not buying this. We're gone. I'm just not, because that's not reality. The reality is we're shit at the moment, and we're playing poorly based off. Our midfield's really down, and our midfield's not supporting. And that's a concern. And if it continues that way, of course, okay, well, we're not in the mix. But yeah, I think for the most part, okay, we've just got to see how this one unfolds over the next couple of weeks at least. But just because if we get on a roll over the next 2 or 3 weeks and finish second, that doesn't guarantee anything anyway. It puts you in a better position, but it doesn't guarantee. I just don't think you can flip-flop. And just suddenly now, like 4 weeks ago, it was like, whoa, fuck, we're rocking and rolling. We're the second best team in the competition. We deserve to be second favourites, all this type of stuff. And then suddenly, 4 weeks down the track, you're saying we're not going to win it. Well, yeah, we probably won't, but you can't say that is the reality, because it's not. All right, enough on that. What I will say, from my point of view, is I made it very, very clear after our Richmond win, when we were red hot. Now, red hot. And I put a video out there, that preview, that it felt like we were that team. We were that team that had gears, were powerful, we'd found role players, we're in a perfect spot, our list demographic. But I stopped short of that. And based on the fact that we played Richmond as well, a team that, similar to us, were red hot, but they cashed in on that incredibly strong era. Now, we've got it all in front of us, and so far since then, I said we'd shown something, we'd shown improvement, and we'd shown we were capable, but it stopped there as far as I was concerned. We'd proved nothing. And what that doesn't make me Nostradamus. It just makes me cautious. And it makes me, I suppose, realistic of any team. Just like the team we played, guys, on Friday night. I'm sure most of their supporters who've seen this before, seen this story before, will be sitting back going, okay, that was a good win. Okay, that was a good win in the context of our season, but it means fuck all, because we haven't won a grand final yet. In fact, since Kenny's been there, we haven't won one. Okay, so we're not going to get carried away with that. We want it, we're a long way to go, and our football team has a long way to go as well. So I mentioned, 1 goal 5 after half time was just incredibly poor. And when we're playing like this, you just question so much. And, you question the coaching, which is understandable. You question the lack of, I suppose, moves within game. You question selection. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. They're all in this together. The coach, I think, is probably the most important person at the football club. They just steer the ship. And when it's going poorly like it is at the moment, they've got to take responsibility. So do the players. They're all in this together. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's bad coaching. We're just playing poorly. We're playing poorly. Now, if that is, if some of the coaching is responsible for that, in that drop-off, then I'm sure they'll take responsibility for that. They have to. And if it continues along these lines, but the thing that concerns me a little bit, is this could go real pear-shaped. It could go pear-shaped. After the position we were in, what we did last year, and there were position we're in, after that Richmond game, and position so strongly, if this goes pear-shaped and we just finish this year off really poorly, there's going to be no changes made. We're going to be so angry. We're going to be so angry and so disappointed. But Michael Voss isn't going anywhere. Okay, let's put that on the table now. So it's pointless. We can question, but this isn't a situation where he's going anywhere. Okay, pretty much like Kenny was never going anywhere with Port Adelaide as well. So I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to go that Voss needs to go because it's just ridiculous. Sure, there'll be plenty of questions that will need to be answered, but we're not going to get those answers. We're just not going to get those. We'll roll on into next year, like we always do as supporters. We're just going to have to suck it up. But I'm not in a position right now, guys, to write this team off. That's all I'm going to say on the game itself. I think the glaring stat for me was our lack of pressure after half-time. 17-7 inside 50 tackles in favour of Port. Just pretty much summed that up. They wanted it. They wanted it badly. They hunted us and we just folded. And there's a few question marks on a lot of our players. Let's go through the players, guys. And in fact, that egg was so nice. That was so nice. Oh, tell me you like curried eggs. Feel sorry for my wife tonight. All right. Let's have a look at our individuals. We didn't perform as a team, and I think there'd be a lot of players extremely disappointed in their performance. I thought I was critical of Lockie Cowan last week, maybe his last couple of weeks. Can't go back too far. Thought he was one of our better defenders, and considering he's a youngster, I thought he was okay. I thought he at least defended strongly in the air. He had some bounce and some spring in his step and some long kicking. He's only had the 13 touches. Surprisingly, though, he didn't lay a tackle on the night, which pretty much sums up just our overall pressure on the night. But sometimes you might be in a position to tackle. So, but I thought he looked okay. And when he plays like that, you sort of look at the future with him and think, yeah, I think he's going to be a long-term prospect for us. And you're going to see the ups and downs with a young player. Motlop was like most of our team. Contributed when everything was going our way in that second quarter, but hardly sided throughout. He laid the 3 tackles, kicked a goal in that second term, but was very quiet. Very quiet. We didn't get a lot out of our small forwards on Friday night. Ollie Hollands on a wing made a lot of mistakes, and I thought young Burgoyne, I don't think Burgoyne had a hell of a lot, but looked a lot better in regards to his ball use. And Ollie, unfortunately, he just let himself down with some costly errors, and it's become a consistent thing. I did hear another comment on X, someone during the week had said, isn't it fantastic? Let's back the kid in. Let's continue to tell him to hit those 45s and be really aggressive with his kicking. Yeah, that's okay. But if you look at Ollie's draft profile when he was coming through, he was an elite runner and could find the ball. But one of the biggest criticisms of Ollie Hollands in his draft year was his poor kicking. It's one thing to say, we want you to be aggressive with your kicking, but is he a good enough kick to be doing that in the first place? So I'm not quite sure whether that will improve over time. It will need to, but he had some howlers on Friday night which were costly. But I'm not. He was part of I think a midfield group, including our wingers, that were beaten comprehensively on Friday night. Particularly after halftime. Yeah, the Adam Chera experiment in the back line is, I think he started the game okay, got his hands on it, and I'm not going to question any player's courage, but as a defender, you need to, I suppose, when the ball's in the air and it's your turn to go for it, and to be strong in the air. There was a couple of times there where he was really unsure in the air and went for the ball. I think it was in the third quarter when Port were on a bit of a roll, and he just was under a high ball. Put it that way, twice. He was under high balls, and it wasn't him. It wasn't his cup of tea. I can't answer. I don't even know whether Michael Voss has been asked a lot about that move of Adam Chera behind the ball. I think watching before the game when the players come out and do their warm-ups, he was part of the midfield group. I thought he'd get back in there. Did he spend a tiny bit of time in there in the first quarter? Then it allowed Chincotta to come in and play on Butters. I'm not quite sure, but he definitely was playing behind the ball, and it didn't work once again. He's had the 15 disposals. And I think, look, let's be honest, if he's defending, or if he's part of that back 6 and 7, he's to provide us some run and some dash and be a high possession player. You know, you're getting your 23, 24 type sort of numbers. And not necessarily expecting to be a really tough and hard defender. So I'm saying that's another underwhelming performance by Adam Chera in a bizarre position on the ground. Matthew Kennedy's just another one. I thought he was good. I thought he was at least honest in the front half, gave us a tall target, took a great mark in that third quarter. I think it was it? I can't look. He did take a great mark against the flow of play. I can't remember if he kicked a goal from it. Look, anyway, he provided a target. He's kicked 2 goals. Isn't it funny, though, that, I like his flexibility, but, I don't know, just like, it was only 2 years ago that he was racking up 30-odd possessions, and he was, Voss had told him that there's only room for 2 contested players in this football team. Your form is super and you're the man. And suddenly now he's playing in the back line, he's up forward. And I know we probably need that out of necessity at the moment, but I don't know whether that's sustainable. I really don't. Don't think he's probably creative enough to play that next forward role. It kind of came out in the necessity. So well, there's Jace Burgoyne's numbers there, 22 disposals. I thought he was outstanding for Port. Fogarty, look, 2 tackles, 11 disposals, didn't hit the scoreboard. I know he had a couple of goal assists. I was talking to my son about that at the game. He hit a couple of players lace out, which was good. But it was I think it was a sort of a just game for Lockie Fogarty. Cripps tried. Didn't think he had a really effective night. He was probably in our top 2 or 3 best players, but if you look at the overall picture, if you look at the best players on the ground or the most influential players on the ground, Patrick Cripps wasn't part of that. We probably didn't get bang for buck. I thought Willem Drew did a reasonable job of negating Cripper. I felt like he spent a lot of time on the bench at critical times. I don't know if you noticed that. There was a lot of times I thought, where's Cripper? I don't know if that was just trying to get the rotations right. And it was just overwhelming in the end. I mean, their midfield just got on top. I thought Wines was sensational. Butters and Rosie just popped in and out. I thought Jason Horne-Francis was really good. And then the support role of Drew, and then their wingers was solid as well. And I thought the guy with the left foot in that third quarter, he came into the team, was it Farrell? I thought he played that role which we expect from Nick Newman. He got really high up the ground and became fucking dangerous. I thought our midfield was well beaten, which included Patrick Cripps. I thought McGovern was pretty good. Aerially, not great with his spoiling, but I thought his contest and toughness was exceptional. Great tackle, which was unrewarded. His kicking was pretty bloody solid. Thought it was a good return for him. Thought maybe in that last quarter, we could have just rolled the dice, even at the start of the last quarter, rather than waiting to get him forward. But really, the ball was planted. It probably wouldn't have made much of a difference. The ball was planted in their front half, and we just couldn't transition the ball. So he probably would have been pressed up anyway. But yeah, I thought there was an opportunity to try a few things after half time, but we didn't. Jack Carroll came on really early with Cunningham going off, and other than sort of popping in and out, really didn't do enough. And you talk about reality. Reality is just not providing enough. And we're not talking about a kid in his first or second year anymore. You know, I know he's still young, but probably expecting a little bit more development at this higher level from Jack Carroll, other than just 9 disposals, 2 tackles, didn't have a clearance. I know he would have been playing a little bit different role considering Cunningham went off, but it just wasn't a productive night. Kemp Knight, I think we probably hung him out to dry. They went tall, Radaglia, Dixon, and then Georgiades, who was a handful. Kemp had his hands full with Radaglia, then he was on Georgiades, and yeah, he's just not a really strong customer. He can take a fucking really good intercept mark. He showed some dash. He tried to be aggressive with his running. I just think we're not playing him in the right way. We're expecting to be something that he's not necessarily. So I think we're going to get these frustrations with Brodie Kemp and our defence, because we do rely on planting that ball in our front half and letting our defenders set up strongly behind the ball, which we did in the second quarter. Because in the second quarter, when Port did go forward, we looked good. Defensively, we looked strong. That's because we were dominating through the midfield of the ground. Walsh, I just, mentioned 3 or 4 times being there on Friday night. And I'll continue to say there's something not right with Sam Walsh. He looks slow, really slow. I mentioned in that game in the second quarter, he had some space, but he didn't get run down. He nearly got run down, which forced a turnover, and it's like he was trying to run in honey or something. Like it doesn't look lame, but he looks, I don't know what it is. He's just not covering the ground like he should be. And he's had 23 touches and 11 tackles. Oh, fucking hell. He's had 11 tackles. So, I mean, have a look at that. That is like, you cannot criticise a dude who's doing that. Some of his tackling is overzealous and probably potentially second to the ball because he's not got that power. But you can never question his application, and I won't do that. I just think I think he's playing sore. It's as simple as that. Hollands started. I thought Ollie Hollands, particularly in that first quarter, was our best player, but his ball use on Friday night was poor for the whole night. I'm not quite sure what was going on with him. Chip kicks, around the body kicks, rubber kicks. I thought his ball use for the whole night was average, and we're usually expecting him to be the finisher, the guy that when the ball's in his hands can make something happen because he's such a lovely kick and very creative. But yeah, I judge his game down, even though he's had 20 touches. I judge it down because I felt like there was a lot of times on Friday night we're going, geez, shit kick. Wiedering just took Dixon to the cleaners, but Dix, I don't know. I felt like it was a selfless role by Charlie Dixon to take Wiedering away from Kemp's opponent. And yeah, I just didn't think we coordinated that well. I didn't see the third man up enough. He had a great game and he's beaten his opponent and he's taken some intercept grabs, blah, blah, blah. But from a defensive point of view, I think you all look at it and go, what can they do better to help each other out? And some of the times I'm thinking, where the fuck's Wiedering? You know, like there's Kemp, McGovern standing under a high ball, and Wiedering's worried about Dixon further back, where he should be coming up possibly to kill the contest. Newman, thought he was okay, but we didn't get that effectiveness. 332 metres going from his 20 disposal. We didn't get that, what O'Farrell did for Port Adelaide. When Nick Newman is really effective for us is when he is like pressed right up and is delivering that ball either with penetration and depth into a dangerous spot or hitting players up. We didn't necessarily see that. Pitnet was honest early against Sweet, but as the game progressed, his lack of mobility, couldn't jump, and Sweet just was all over the top of him and was a big reason why they started to win and have those contests in the middle of the ground. And it was, in the end, a pretty... I mean, you look at the 35 hit-outs and he's had 13 disposals, and it's... You don't want to question his application and honesty, but it just wasn't an effective game. And when you look at that and then you look what you miss out on with TDK, and I understand the rhetoric around what a luxury it is to have a ready-made ruckman to come in, but he didn't give us a lot. You know, he didn't give us a lot around the ground. That TDK gives to us when we really needed it. And this is one guy, really, who shouldn't have been tired. You know, there's no excuse for Mark Pitnet to come in and look like he needed a nap at three-quarter time. There was no excuse for that. So, yeah, I didn't think it was a great, and I thought he was beaten by Sweet. Cunningham, yeah, just can't comment. Didn't touch it. Poor bloke, stunned his shoulder, and not quite sure of the news with that. Hewitt, yeah, 23, 5 clearances, midfield beaten. I can't say much more than that. I just can't, you know, he was there a little bit. Thought he was really quiet early. I think when we were on top, he was quiet. So I think he worked into the game, but no. Thought Charlie was probably at best. I thought it was the most energy I've seen from Charlie. He probably looked no Harry. He really needed to step up. 9 marks. He's kicked a 3. In the end, he was like forced way up the ground to win his ball in that last quarter. And no, I thought he was good. I thought he was really good. Liked his game. Thought it was probably one of his better performances over the last 5 or 6 weeks. I just thought he played with a lot of energy and a lot of vigour. I'm not going to criticise Lewis Young. I'm just not. I just, like I've seen it. We've all seen enough now to the demise of this bloke as a defender. One is just, what the fuck's going on there? And he's not a ruckman's bootlace and is not a forward. Yeah, he presented and won a free kick in that second quarter and kicked the goal, and he's had 11 disposals, but he's had 3 hit-outs, but no impact at all. I'm not going to sit here and have a go at him because it's pointless. The Chincotta experiment, I think he had Butters and then he had someone else, and then it just has become a little bit confusing, and he's not winning enough of his own ball. Not 9 disposals. He takes out one. Well, not necessarily takes one out, but I'm not seeing that role working at the moment. It's easy to say when you're not winning games of football. Sard down. Thought he was down. Yeah. Owies down. Kicked a goal, but down. And Matthew Cottrell down. Kicked a goal. But you look at all those players, you look at Cottrell and Owies and Fogarty and a lot of those players had reasonable second quarters, but just went missing after that. Tell us what you think. That's quite a long review, guys. Let us know a couple of things. How do you think we're going? How do you like your eggs? And do you like curried eggs? Speak soon.